Hello, everyone. My name is Misty Hayes, and I'm your instructor for this course. So, welcome to EDUC 2220 Introduction to Exceptional Learners. I know that's a mouthful. I'm glad you're here. I just wanted to walk you through, give you a little bit of course orientation, go over a little bit of the big projects, and then look at your first module's expectations and assignments. So, if you've already logged into our course, which I hope you have, you're going to see on the course homepage our welcome message. So hopefully you've had a chance to read through this. It gives you important information. There's a link to the syllabus. Also, our textbook information is located in there, and then how you can reach and contact me. On the right side of the course homepage, you're going to see our calendar. If there's any changes, I will let you know. So this video I'm doing is going to be something I will do each week or each module because sometimes we may have a module that's 2 weeks long. But every time we have a new module, I will post the expectations and a video like this that you're watching on this course homepage. So this is what I call the newsletter or the news bulletin, and it will be housed here inside of the course homepage. So anything that we are doing, announcements, I will email you, but I also will put on this course homepage for you. So hopefully you are familiar with eLearn. If not, and you're still learning how to navigate it, there is a helpful resource located under the Student Help tab. It's called eLearn for Students. It's a video series to help you navigate, for instance, how do I take a quiz? How do I post on a discussion board? How do I email someone or my instructor? So, this is very helpful if you're still learning how to navigate the LMS system. If you don't like to watch videos, you also have the student PDF guide there as well. And just a shout out to everyone that's been emailing me, introducing yourself. Thank you for doing that. It helps. Also, don't forget that you do have your first 2 weeks activities, which I'll kind of briefly go over in just a moment. But just to remind you, if you want to do an email to the to the class or to me specifically, you can either do it by communications through email or click the envelope at the top. So anytime that you're going to get an email alert, it will have like a yellow circle or orange circle, if you will, and then the same for notifications. Anytime there's any updates, like I posted to something or someone responded to your post or there's a calendar item where something's due, you'll see a little circle that indicates that you have a notification. So just be mindful of that. I tell students to check your eLearn course and emails at least once a day. You need to be logging in at least once a day, to see if you have any notifications and to get into your coursework, even if it's an online class as this one is. So let's go ahead and quickly go over some things before we get into Module 1. The first thing I want to touch on is all of the course content is going to be underneath the course information tab underneath content. And you'll see the table of contents is going to be how you will navigate this course. I will go over the organization because all the modules are laid out the same, but you will just click in the table of contents. That is the easiest way to get around the course. So the first thing I want to touch on is the office hours schedule. So I did have my schedule uploaded in here for you. This is just if you need to meet with me. It shows you my class times and then the times I'm available to meet. Now, I do hold in-person office hours as well as virtual. So if you are located on a different campus, I could do a virtual Teams meeting. I also do phone meetings with you as well. So if you ever need to meet with me, just email me and we'll set up a time for you. So that is available for you underneath the table of contents. It's going to be the kind of the first thing you see, at the top there. So hopefully you've had a chance to go through the Getting Started module. This is going to be connected to your first week's attendance activity where I report your attendance to the college. So I will be reporting attendance to the college throughout the semester based on your class project process, meaning are you committing assignments? And I will look through your progress throughout the course to see if you're submitting things. Are you getting logged in? Are you completing the module? What is your progress? How much have you completed? And those sorts of things. So the getting started module is important because not only does it have the course syllabus with the course expectations, but it has information about me, such as an overview of the course, an introduction of myself, which I suggest you read if you want a little bit more about me, not just professional, but personal. It has my information, office hours, what can you expect from me. So there's a lot of important information in there. So please go back and read that if you haven't. It has our course outcomes, which are going to be the outcomes that you will master throughout the semester and should be able to complete and be able to do at the end of the semester. So here are your activities that have to be completed the first week. You should have emailed me using the required format. Like I said, that's how we report attendance to the college, which can impact your financial aid. So please keep this in mind. You have to take the course pretest. Now, the course pretest is just to give me a baseline of where you are and where you're coming in. What do you know about special education? This is not counting against you. You get points for doing it. So it's like a bonus. So please don't fret. I will give you the same test again at the end of the semester to see your growth and that you've mastered the outcomes. So please do not, you can't study for it. It's just to give me a baseline, like I said, to gauge where you are. Make sure you know where to find your correct textbook, which we will be using the publishing company Cengage. We will be using Teaching in Today's Inclusive Classrooms, a universal design for learning approach. So the textbook information is located in there as well. And again, I know earlier I mentioned to you that under the student help tab, there is a resource video for learning how to navigate eLearn, but I went ahead and put it in there for you as well. There's accessibility statements, external tool, privacy policies, netiquette, and technical requirements and technical support such as how you attend a Zoom or meetings, Water State Help Desk, and tutoring and other sorts of things that you may need to know. Keep in mind that anytime you have assignments or assessments due, I put the due dates there. Obviously, this first week we have people in and out. So the due dates are listed, but I'm a little bit more flexible this week because we have students being added all the way and all the way this week up until the beginning of next week. So, but I would like us to stick with the calendar. Now, there are two places that you can get our course schedule. The first place is going to be your syllabus. And like I said, I really want you to read over it. It has our textbook information in there. Now, here's a copy or an image, if you will, of the textbook front cover. Now, make sure you get the fourth edition because there were a lot of changes between that and the third edition. So I do want the correct edition used. You can get a paper copy. I did put the ISBN number. I say get the cheapest possible. You can do an ebook, which some students do. Actually, I'm going to touch on that in just a minute. If you want a paper copy, this is going to be an additional cost, and I'm going to talk to you about that in just a moment. But if you don't need the paper copy and you're fine with ebook, you've already kind of been enrolled in that inclusive access program through the bookstore where it's already in the course, and I'm going to show you how to utilize and get to it. So unless you just have to have the paper copy for whatever reason, try to just use the ebook. Um, some other information that's important in the syllabus is going to be how I assess you, what are my approaches. It gives you a breakdown of your assessment points. Um, it gives you a grading scale for the end of the semester, how you should participate, what are the assignments you will be doing. And again, as I mentioned, you have that one way to get to your course schedule. I pretty much try to stick to this schedule unless something happens. And if something is going to change, I will let you know in plenty of time. or make accommodations for that change in the schedule, but please keep to the schedule. And then it talks about our late policy, missed work, make up work, AI policy, which is very important. So please make sure that you read through that as well. So there are lots of information in there. The second place you can get the schedule is going to be under instructor information and course introduction. There's this place there that specifically just has the schedule, so you can download that as well. So just make sure that you're sticking with that. Okay, so once you go through the getting started module, I know there's a lot there. The next thing you should be looking at, you have your course resources there. And this is really helpful because in this class, we're going to be having to use sources where we cite using APA. We're going to have to do some research. So I have the Purdue Online Writing Lab, which helps with APA writing and APA papers. We have links to different databases which you will need for research. And then it talks about some of the tools um, or things that we use in the classroom, such as training IEPs, which stand for Individual Education Programs. We also have Tennessee Special Education Framework. It talks about what it is and how we use it in this class. We have the Council for Exceptional Children Preparation Standards, which we also use. And we use something called IRIS modules to kind of help us. It's almost like a professional development, if you will, and how we use them in this class. So this is important information. And again, that's located under course resources. Now, there are some projects in this class. The most important thing that you need to know is you will have a high impact practice, which is known as service learning. This is a requirement to pass this class. So each student is going to complete 12 hours of service learning, and hopefully you've already read through this section. This is an experience to give you in the classroom that's going to go along with our course lecture, and you will be in the classroom for 12 hours and document it, and there will be a written component at the end of that, such as a journal and then a reflective paper as well. The other course project that you will be doing is called a co-teaching lesson plan, and this is where you will design a co-teaching lesson plan as part of your applied learning in this classroom. So when we're talking about co-teaching, this means you team teach, you working with another teacher, which is quite common in inclusive classrooms or classrooms such as a resource or CDC. So this assignment really is going to emphasize how do you collaborate well, how do you plan instructionally with another person, and are you bringing in inclusive practices? And then lastly, your third project that you will complete in this course is going to be a choice. So I give you a choice on this. You are going to get to um, do, let me close that out. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a pop up there and I wanted to get rid of that ad. There is a choice of an interview where you're going to interview a parent who has a child with special needs, which is usually a popular choice. Or you can review a peer-reviewed article on a relevant topic from the Teaching Exceptional Children Journal. Or you can participate in what we call a work-based learning experience. So this is where you will work with East or West High School. Now, if you are not in the Morristown area, this project may not be one for you. So you would need to be in the Morristown area because you would choose one of those two schools where you're going to go in and work with those students. So it's high school students and they are learning. They go to work-based sites, but they also academic skills in the classroom, and you will be doing 6 hours. So it's a really good way for you to gain more experience in being in a high school environment with students who are older, um, but to learn also what work-based learning is and how it helps exceptional needs children. So this is also one that people really enjoy and they get a lot out of it. The only thing is you will have to do an additional 6 hours because your service learning cannot count toward these hours or vice versa. So it will be additional. One thing to note though is that if you do choose work-based learning, you will be able to omit one of the exams. So if you do that, I'm taking into account and consideration that, it is an extra 6 hours on top of your 12 of service learning, that you will get to forego either the midterm or the final exam. So you won't have to do it, but you still get those points. And I want to do that because the work-based learning does take a little extra time on your part, but it's really worth it. I've not had a student yet who wish they wouldn't have done it. They always say they want more hours in it. I even had students who have done it and went on to work as an assistant in the classrooms. So it's really an eye opener and it's a wonderful experience for not only you but the students in the high school. So that's going to be a choice of yours. You're choosing only one of these. So in all, we've got three projects that you will complete in addition to our module assignments. So, how I broke it down is again, use the left side of the screen. It's very helpful on the table of contents. So, if you want to go to the service learning, you would just click service learning. And it's going to bring up only the service learning information. Now, under service learning, we kind of broke it down to make it as simple as we can, as detailed as we can, so you know what you are supposed to be doing. So there is some reading involved, but I'm happy to jump on Teams or have in person meetings with you because I know you're not in the classroom and this is a big part of your requirement for this course. So I want to support you every step of the way. So, what you're going to do, the first section is just an introduction of what it is. If you've not completed service learning before and you're not familiar, this is something you must read. We do have a service learning coordinator. Her name is Jessica Mills. Some of you who are Education AST may know her. So she's always available. Even I am as well to help you. She's really good at getting back to you right away. So if you have questions about your placement, she's definitely one to go to because she's the one that will place you for service learning. So the first thing we have is the introduction. Then we have what actually is service learning. Well, it's a high impact practice, meaning that you're going into the classroom, but you're also giving a service to the community with your time, your 12 hours, right? So you're going to take what you're learning in the classroom and experience that, or experiential learning is what we call, under a teacher's assistance. So she's going to be like your mentor. He will be your mentor, if you will. Now, one thing to note, if you have had service learning in the past, the service learning for this course is a little bit different, meaning that you do have to be placed in what we call a special ed setting. So this means you need to be either in a CDC classroom or a resource. Now, I have had students where they couldn't be placed in a resource or CDC classroom. The next best thing for us would be we would have to put you in a classroom like a gen ed that had some students with an IEP, which is an individualized education program or plan. So that would be one way we can get around it, but you do need to be with students who have learning plans. One thing also to note is that there's going to be some costs associated with this, meaning you will need to have a background check through TBI, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, with no indicators coming back. So that's going to be a cost to you, excuse me. You will also have to purchase what we call liability insurance. Now, there's two options for students. You can read through them. There's either STEA, which is Student Tennessee Education Association, or you can purchase insurance through the college called AON, which is just $13. Now you're like, why would I not go with the cheaper option? Well, with STA, you are automatically being able to be a part of our Student Teacher Education Association club here at Water State. You get access to some of the benefits that students do, such as journals, resources. You have a chance to go to Nashville, which in fact I think we're going with our students this April. So there's a lot of benefits that will help you. Also, there's those connections that you wouldn't have if you weren't in STA. So it's something to consider. Obviously, you could do AON, but STA is also an option for liability insurance. The other thing that you will have to do is that You will have to complete some documentation, like you will have to do an application, and there's some other forms you will complete. Now, one thing to also note is that there are approved sites. So we have what we call MOUs in line with school systems. So your sites that are approved are these counties listed and these specific schools. Okay. So you can look and see on your application, you can put the county that you would like to have. Um, One thing to note though, if you want to be in Jefferson or Sevier counties, they do off they do require like an additional approval by central office personnel, so that may take a little extra time. But keep in mind that, if you're not doing those, that's okay. I do also want to note, we did have Claiborne County, but we no longer have them listed. I know that says that on there, but we're not doing Claiborne County. So just make sure you're aware of that. We also have Boys and Girls Clubs at the Smoky Mountains. You can also do it there. So you can see there's other places aside from your regular school if it doesn't allow for your schedule. And especially if you're in the early childhood realm of pre-K through 2, then there are some early childhood places here as well. So just keep that in mind. The next thing under service learning is going to be, well, what do I do first? So this is going to walk you through the steps, the things that you have to do. There is a timeline and checklist, which I highly recommend you download because it's going to tell you when you have to have each of these things completed by, because we have to make sure to get you placed in time to be able to complete your 12 hours before your assignments are due. And whenever you click on items, it may take a while to like pull up, but just be patient, it will come up. So you'll see here what I'm talking about. You'll have um, the due dates there and it tells you when it's due. Now, one thing to know is that you are not going to be submitting this documentation to our course Dropbox. You need to join Teams, Microsoft Teams, and there is a join code here. There's also a video that shows you how to join Teams if you've never done it. And there's a PDF document that shows you how to submit your documentation. So to Teams, you're going to fill out your service learning application and submit it to Teams. The service learning hold harmless has to go in Teams. Your proof of liability insurance has to go in Teams. Your VEX, this is associated with your background check, that has to be submitted to Teams. And lastly, your service learning referral confirmation form also has to be submitted to Teams. Okay. Now, in addition to your hours and the written activities, at the end of your experience or your 12 hours, your mentor teacher that mentors you is going to complete evaluation on you and sign your log sheets. Your log sheet is how you're going to log your 12 hours. You need to have it with you every time you go to your 12 hours. So just make sure that you're aware of that because they have to be signed by the mentor teacher stating that you were there and this is what you did during that time. They will submit the information to us. You will not. Okay. And all this is in our module. And then lastly, you will be keeping a journal while you're doing your 12 hours. And then you will do what we call a written document analysis, which is like your reflection paper. So that's going to all be under what do I do first. Now, under the section that says service learning, I have started my hours. Now what do I do? It's going to show you what you need to do, which is starting to do your journal, right? And what that looks like. And then it will say, I have completed my hours. Now what do I do? And then it talks about your service learning paper or your written analysis, your analytical paper. So it's going to talk about that as well. Okay. So then after you go through all the service learning module, again, I'm here to support you. Some people are new to service learning, so you can reach out to myself or the service learning coordinator. We're here to help you. So please do not fret over this. It is a process and it's important for you to get started right away, but do not lose sleep over this. We're going to get you placed and you are going to get a lot out of this class and out of your service learning experience. So again, keeping with the left side in the table of contents, the other two projects you have is your co-teaching. I'm going to get into this on the next video because I don't want this video to be an hour long, but I do want you to read through the co-teaching assignment because this is something I don't want you to work on throughout the semester. I don't want you to wait till the last minute to do it. So read through that. And then again, I will also do a video to kind of walk you through the three assignments as far as your choices, if you will. You're selecting only one of these. So I will do a separate video on that just so you can see kind of what the expectations, but I still want you to read through that section. Now, after you read through that, you have your assessment information. This is kind of already listed in the syllabus, but it's here for you as well. Quizzes, the breakdown for quizzes, your grade breakdown overall, and then your grading scale for the courses there. Okay. So after you got through all of that getting started, what's next? Well, we're going to move on to Module 1, which is where we are now. Okay, so don't forget you had items to complete for the first week attendance, which means you should have sent me an email. You needed to complete your pre-test, and then you needed to um, do your discussion board post introducing yourself. And all that again is located underneath the Getting Started module where it says course syllabus and orientation to the course activities. And you're going to see those requirements here in the due date. So just make sure you have them done. Now, let's move into Module 1. I told you I was going to explain to you how each module is going to be organized because it's all laid out the same. It's all very linear, if you will, and it will check boxes after you've completed. That way I can see your class progress as well as you can see it. So as you go through, it will check off what you've done. So at the very top, you're going to see the name of the module. So there are 10 modules in all. We're going to start with the historical and legal foundation of special ed. There's always going to be a synopsis at the top. It gives you a summary of the module. Then underneath it, you have module overview and outcomes. So these are going to be an overview or summary, and then it's going to tell you what the course outcomes are associated, and then what are your learning objectives for this specific module. Okay, so for module 1, we're going to identify various types of learners and their needs. We're going to look at describing placement options and legal principles, learning what IDA is, and then explain the role of courts in educational reform. So this is all located underneath module 1. The next thing you're going to do, and remember, you can always just click back in the table of contents to go through it, which is the easiest way, or you can just use the arrows to the left and right. The next thing you're going to see are the keywords and concepts. So these are important because it kind of breaks down what we're going to be focusing on for each module. So for module 1, since we're learning about the history and legal foundations, we're going to start with legal foundations, right? So specifically, we're going to be looking at Individuals with Disability Education Act, IDA. We're going to look at Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. We're going to look at Americans with Disability Act and the ADA Amendments Act. We're going to look at civil rights legislation and key judicial decisions. So basically any court cases that really shaped educational law. Then we're going to learn some terminology, specifically like what's the difference between disability and handicap? What does exceptional children mean? What's developmental delay? And what's that in terms of at-risk students? Service delivery and placement, and then contemporary issues, things that we're seeing today in inclusive classrooms like cultural and linguistic diversity, disproportional representation, multicultural and bilingual education, and then family and community collaboration. So those are important concepts for you to kind of look at and be studying as you're reading the chapter and going through the module. The next section you're going to see is going to be the standards. Now, there's two sets of standards I put in here every module. The first one is your in-task standards. Those are called your teacher preparation standards, right? Teachers, pre-service teachers. So learning to be a teacher. You're going to have learner development and learning environment. So these are the two we're focusing on. These are also located in the class. You're going to see them. Um, it's actually in the resources section and getting started, so you can go back and look at those as well. And then we also have the Council for Exceptional Children standards. So it'll tell you which ones we're covering for that module. Now, after you look at the beginning, then we get into the next section, which is called the reading and resources. So this is going to be required reading like chapters or links I'm taking you to, basically like your textbook or journal reading. Then you have links, okay? So the links are going to be links to videos. It's always going to have a publishing company. So our textbook has its own PowerPoint and outline. I always include those. And then I include outlines or PowerPoints of my own. So I have two presentations in here for you. One is called in History and Legislation uh, Special Education. So this one is really important because it really dives into the evolution of special education and how it came about in the United States. So this one is something for you. And I always say, I know a lot of times these presentations seems like a lot. I always encourage you to download them. That way you can always go back and look at them later and it helps you study. So there's a lot of good reasons to download and save those PowerPoints. The other one is what we call an interactive lesson. So this is what we call Nearpod. Nearpod's great because it has built-in quizzes. It kind of gauges where you are. There's sometimes games located inside. So it's giving you an updated version of what we call PowerPoint, where it's more interactive with you. And it is still at your own pace since this is an online course. But how you're going to join it is you can go to join.nearpod.com and enter this code, or you can click in here in this box and you should be able to get to the presentation. So that's something that will be in some of the modules, not every one, but they will be throughout the 10 modules. So, and it will align with each module that it's in. The next one is a video, and I try to give you a little bit of a description of what you're looking at. Sometimes they'll have APA citations, sometimes they won't, but this just kind of lets you see what you're looking at and what you're clicking on. And the next one is a video. This one was talking about IDA. So last year, we just celebrated 50 years in 2025 of IDA. And the U.S. Department of Education is going to give you kind of a little history lesson on how IDA came to be and how it protects students. So this video, definitely watch it. And then the last two you're going to see is the citation page, so reference list of the materials I've used. And then you have what we call a questions about the course discussion board. So what this is each module, you may have questions specifically to that module. So this will take you to an open discussion board that doesn't close, and you can post any questions you might have, say about IDEA, you have a question about it, you can go to this link, it'll take you to the discussion board and you can ask your question. Now, I do check this 2 to 3 times a week, but if you need a quicker response, just email me directly. But students can answer it and I can answer it as well. So this is just like a cafe, if you will, of questions or concerns or comments you might have, or maybe you even want to just share a resource with someone that you found that goes along with our content. So I always encourage you to use this. This is a great resource. And again, it's going to be in each module. Now, after you go through the introduction, you do all the reading and resources. So for required reading, you will be reading out of your textbook. You will read chapter 1, okay, and I kind of give you indication of what that chapter is going to be about. So this week, we're really, again, looking at the history, um, legislation, What does UDL mean? So we're going to introduce UDL, which is Universal Design for Learning, because that's in the title of our text. And then we're going to talk about things like IDA, ADA, Section 504, and how they really shape our classrooms today, and what that means when we say inclusive classrooms. And then the next one is a PDF. You do not have to purchase it. It's a small, I wouldn't call it a textbook. I call it a supplemental text. It's just a small book, but I offer it to you in a PDF for free. And I want you to read chapter 1. And anytime I give you an additional reading, save this book. It just gives you like an overview of special education law. Now, last time I looked, they didn't have an updated, but if anything I ever give you, like the link doesn't work or it's updated, be feel free to share with me. I try to keep it updated as much as I can, but to my knowledge, they haven't had an updated supplemental text for this. So this is a really neat book and resource. So read chapter 1. It's called A Teacher's Guide to Special Education. So that'll be your reading for this week. And then your activities section will be next. Now, I do include things you have to do for service learning in this section. Now, remember, I said earlier, you have to join teams and submit all your stuff to teams. Why do I make you do that? Well, the service learning coordinator is a person who will place you in the school that you want to be, or let me rephrase. She'll do her best to put you in the school that you want to be in or county. However, she does not have access to our class, so she can't see anything you're submitting to Dropbox. That's why we have Teams, so you can submit your paperwork over there. So I put this in here as a reminder, but you will not submit to Dropbox. It goes in Teams. So it'll tell you your service learning application is due January 29th. One thing I did want to note since we're talking about due dates is that all assignments are going to be due on Thursdays of each week. Now, I know that's a little bit different than what maybe we're used to. Oftentimes, things are due on Sunday night, but our assignments in this course are due Thursdays. So again, next Thursday, January 29th, or this, depending on when you're watching this. So 11:30 p.m. things are due. So just make sure that you look at that. And again, if it's confusing for you until you get the hang of it, download the schedule or download your syllabus. The course schedule is in there as well, so you'll know when things are due. Now, normally underneath the activities and assessments, aside from any service learning stuff that you have due, will also be things like your assessments for that specific module. So for module 1, you will have an assignment. Sometimes the assignment might be something you submit to Dropbox. Sometimes it might be a discussion board post. Or it could be your project's due, and I went ahead and put it in there. Don't forget your project's due. So that's where all that stuff will be. Again, you will have an example. Sometimes for assignments, it will give you a description of what you're supposed to be doing. If I give you any review games that help you study, I'll put those in there for you, and it will always be underneath activities and assessment because it's something you're doing to help your grade. And then at the end of each module, you will also have a quiz. Okay, so let's recap what I just said. Every module, you will have an assignment and a quiz. Okay, sometimes I will put review games in there for you that will help you. Okay, not every module will have them, but most of them will. Sometimes I will put iris modules in there for you to do. Iris modules sometimes are going to not be graded, but they will be part of your participation points that you will get. Um, so just keep that in mind when you're doing this. All your assessment and grades will be under this section. So you will have a module 1 quiz. Let me talk a little bit about the quiz. The quiz will always have when it opens and when it's due, when it closes. Again, it's closing on Thursday. You have multiple attempts at the quiz. So what does that mean? During this window of time, you can take the quiz as many times as you want until it closes. The highest attempt will be recorded. So this is a good opportunity for you not only to see the information multiple times, but it allows you to try to get the best grade you can. So take advantage of that. Now, whenever we're doing our midterm exam or final exam, you only have one attempt at that. So module quizzes as many times as you can during that window of opportunity. So let's go ahead and look at what you're going to be doing. This week, you will be completing your service learning application. You will need to go ahead and fill it out. Okay. Again, if you click on it, it's not going to take you anywhere because it's just a reminder. All that information in the application itself is located under the service learning module. So make sure you look at that. What you're going to do this week is you're going to complete a timeline. Okay. So it has two parts, if you will. The first is to create a timeline, and then you're going to write a short reflection on what you learned. Now, that video that you watch about the 50 years that was created by the U.S. Department of Education and our textbook and our um, presentation that I gave you, all of that is going to give you information and timelines. So it's going to help you be able to create. So use all of those to create your own timeline. Now you're like, well, how big does it need to be? Well, you can do research using the course materials, using your textbook, watching that video, researching on the internet. That's why I gave you those resources for the database for the library. But what your timeline has to have is 5 major milestones. So each milestone should have the event name, a brief description, and an explanation of why the event is important. Now remember, short because it is a timeline. Now, there's two formats I'm allowing you to do with the timeline. You can do a digital timeline using any kind of tool or software. Like I know a lot of students like to use Canva. So there's lots of different options that you can use when you're creating a timeline. And or you can hand draw a timeline, and then if you do select this version, please make sure to take a picture because that's image is what's going to be submitted to Dropbox. But just make sure the image is legible, like I can read it. Now, your timeline must include events from the following categories. So here's some options. You can do IDEA, ADA, Section 504, or any of the key court cases such as Brown versus Board of Education, Park versus Pennsylvania. So this is an example of some of the categories. In our textbook, chapter 1 has a lot in there. So there's many for you to choose from, but I only want you to timeline 5 of them. Now, the second part is going to be your reflection. Now, this doesn't have to be very long. I'm only wanting you to do half a page to 1 page whole. And what I want you to do in your reflection is you're really going to discuss how historical and legal developments have really shaped what we see today in inclusive classrooms. How have principles like IDEA, such as IEPs, or least restrictive environments, which is LREs, or FAPE, free appropriate public education, how have they really influenced our practices today? And then why understanding these foundations is important for future educators. And then underneath it just shows you how these objectives, how this assignment aligns with our learning objectives for this module, and then how do they align with the course outcomes. There is a uh, rubric here for you. The rubric is really going to break down how I'm going to assess you. So this assignment is worth 10 points. The criteria that I'm looking at specifically is going to be the accuracy of your timeline and the relevancy. So again, it has to include those 5 key areas, right, with clear significance. I'm going to be looking at if it is your reflection, specifically if it's thoughtful, well supported, like evidence, right, connecting to history. And then your organization. So how did you structure your timeline? Is it well organized? Is it clearly written? Does it make sense? So those are the 3 key areas, that I'm looking at. So that will be your rubric for the assignment. I did give you an example here of one that's digital that you could see. Um, this again is just an example of how you could create it. But really, I'm giving you creative reins as far as how you want it to be, or how you want it to look, if you will. Now, after you do that, I do also include the Dropbox for you. There is more than one way to submit an assignment, so you could either click on the link and it'll take you directly to that Dropbox, or you can click on assessments and then click Dropbox from the drop-down menu. Now, review games. I said there's going to be sometimes I give you games that are going to help you review. So these are just Quizlet games that I give you. It's not an assessment. It's just to help you be able to connect with the content and understand the content a little bit more. It's also like a really good study tool for you. And then lastly, you have your module 1 quiz. Again, you have multiple attempts at quizzes. And that's going to sum up your module 1 assignment. Again, I know it's a lot. This week, focus on looking through the service learning and getting started with the documentation that you need, background check, liability insurance, and your application, and then work on module 1 content. Again, please, I know it's a lot, but I'm here to support you, and reach out if you have any questions. Until next time, take care.